Look, I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
I've done it the hard way. This is the way that works. And you'll watch them that just take a hard left and you're like, what are you? People got to touch the pan to see how hot it is.
All right. If you think your commute sucks, wait until you hear this, guys. Look, my guest today races motorcycles across deserts, mountains, and literal nothingness at 100 miles an hour for 2 straight weeks while navigating by road book and pure instinct. He's one of the very few Americans to ever stand on the podium of the Dakar Rally, widely considered the toughest race on earth, the longest race on earth. He's gone from sleeping in vans and self-funding his dream to battling the best riders in the entire world, leading stages at Dakar, winning stages at Dakar, and proving that calm consistency and grit can beat chaos every time. This man doesn't just race motorcycles. He makes decisions under exhaustion, pressure, and uncertainty that would break the typical human being. Probably doesn't even realize that. He's just racing dirt bikes. Please welcome rally racer, Dakar podium finisher, and all-around badass, Mr. Skyler Howes.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me on.
Heck
I'm
yeah,
stoked to be on here.
It's so good to sit with you. It's like a rarity that I get a St. George local in person who's also an international celebrity. So Skyler, so good. We've gotten to ride together when you want to slum it with the slow guys. But great to have you. So look, without even thinking hard, when you first heard our Shawnism today, mistakes don't matter, learning does. What's the first thing that came to mind for you?
Rally racing, just putting it exactly to my career and what I do for my profession, racing the Dakar Rally or the world rallies in general. That term, mistakes don't matter, learning does, is probably the most accurate term for navigation and navigating, like, mistakes, whatever you want to call them, or learning experiences. Because
learning experiences.
Yeah. When you are out there racing at 100 miles an hour, the best way to explain a road book is it's like MapQuest, like the old school MapQuest. You have to print off your directions and read it, and you have to go mile by mile.
Yeah, but you don't have like, turn left at 852 Broad Street. This is
This is like tires buried in the dirt, turn left at 182.3 kilometers at 270 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
It's a whole other depth to it. So as we saw in this last Dakar Rally, I mean, it could be the most simple note too. We have really complicated notes that there's just so much information in there that you're like, whoa, okay. You have to really take your time to piece it together.
Okay. By the way, so for people listening, rally bike is essentially a heavily set up dirt bike that can achieve high speeds, but full off-road capability, just like a dirt bike, 450 cc, chassis, as it were. You got extra water on board. You got extra fuel on board. It's heavy. And you've got a screen essentially giving you MapQuest like directions that you've got to follow for hundreds and hundreds of miles, now ultimately thousands of miles across the most extreme desert on planet Earth. Okay, so that's rally in a nutshell. About 14 days of racing?
14 days total. About 5,000 miles of riding to be done.
Wow.
50 hours of racing. That's not even including the transfer sections.
You're covering 5,000 miles in 50 hours of racing, or that includes the transfer
That
section?
includes the transfer. So it's, 5,000 miles total for the entire route, and then 50 hours of race time.
First of all, if you ask the average human, as a guy who rides a lot of dirt bike, if you ask the average human to just get on a dirt bike and ride it for 5,000 miles.
Well, let's put it into perspective for anyone who's on the West Coast. One of our days, just one day, was equal to riding from San Diego, California to Salt Lake City.
On a dirt bike.
On a dirt bike.
Not on the road.
With race time in the middle.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. That's insane.
So it was 4 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's miserable.
It was pretty heavy.
If you gave me the smoothest dirt bike on earth and said, just by the way, just ride it on pavement to San Diego today.
Oh, that'd be brutal. Honestly, the transfer sections are kind of the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like being on the bike at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, just freezing cold, like
Freezing.
going down the highway.
And
That's
you can't dress too heavy because then you got to sweat it out the rest of the way.
Well, they make it easy on us. We can dress super heavy and then give it to the organization, and they'll drive it.
You're
to the
still
next.
freezing.
Yeah, it's still freezing.
You're still freezing, man. Okay.
But
okay. So back to
the mistakes don't matter. So anyways, we're navigating for 5,000 miles over the course of this deal, and you get it wrong. It doesn't even matter how easy the note can be. Sometimes you're fatigued or whatever. You got the adrenaline going or whatever it might be. You could look down at something or look past it, whatever it might be, and you can go the wrong way. And that's the funny thing about rally is you can be the fastest person on the planet going the wrong direction. You know what I mean? So
that makes it worse.
Yeah, exactly. So,
by the way, as my Baja teammates,
we'll get to this.
I have ridden the wrong way very fast before. Anyway,
yeah. So this whole mistakes don't matter. Learning does. Is it goes back to that. Is it's not really if a mistake's going to happen during the Dakar, navigation issue, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's when. The best riders in the world, people who train every single day or all year for this race, it's gonna happen. Like the navigation stuff, like I said, there's so many variables to it that just sometimes it just doesn't compute in your brain. You shut your brain off.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone listening, Skyler is team rider for Honda, right? I mean, Honda, like in motorsports, it just doesn't get any better. And Monster Energy, near and dear to my heart. And you're riding with the best in the world, And I think one of the best examples of this from this Dakar was your teammate Ricky Brayback finishing after 14 days of riding, 5,000 miles, 2 seconds.
Yeah,
2 seconds, dude. What is that like?
Well, this is exactly my point, is on that final day, he had a 3.5 minute lead. And all he had to do is essentially ride it in 3 kilometers from the finish. We're talking a mile from the finish line. He read a note he just didn't read all the information on the note. The note, to be fair, was missing some information. There was 2 roads and only one of them was drawn on the route. And there was a distance. We hit a waypoint, and waypoints are virtual only. There's not a physical thing out there that we're gonna, actually cross through. It's not like a checkpoint,
right?
But it just registers on our device, and that's how you get penalties and stuff. So, anyways, usually when we register the waypoint, that means that's the center. That's where we need to make the navigation change.
Okay.
Well, there was a road on that waypoint that wasn't marked, and he just turned like 100 meters too early.
On that road.
But technically in our third box, there's 3 boxes. On the third box, it said PP on dike, in the dike road, like a dam road, because we're racing around the whatchamacallit, the ocean. So it had a step up, and it said PP is French for principal piste, which is the main track. PP on the dike, and he didn't see that. I mean, he saw that, but he didn't register that we had to go up a step up onto this dike road. And he went on this other road got lost, and he lost all 3.5 minutes of his lead right there and came in 2 seconds behind.
Just on a parallel road.
1 mile from the finish line after 50 hours of racing.
Okay, so that I use that example, even though it's not your example, because I'm sure you've been there too. But that one's so stark. Finishes him 2 seconds from winning.
Yes. The biggest race. I mean, we're talking huge bonuses, winning the biggest race. It's like winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's like it literally would be the difference of, at the Super Bowl or whatever, missing a
field goal,
a field goal,
or
like
not even an extra point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're there with him, and as it pertains to this topic, right? Mistakes don't matter, learning does. How do you get there in those moments, or maybe not in those moments, after those moments?
Well, the thing you have to consider, let's back it up during the race. Let's not even talk about that specific thing. Let's say you make a navigation error.
Yeah.
And you've lost that time. The time's gone forever. Like a lot of people will think about in racing in general, be like, okay, I made an issue or something slowed me down. Now I have to catch that time back up. That's impossible to do. When you think about it in any racing, it doesn't even have to be dirt bike racing or anything.
Yeah.
If you lose time during the race, the time is gone forever. You can never make that back up. The time's gone forever. It's not about, if you wanted to make that time back up or go, you should have just been going that fast in the beginning. You should have just been going faster. So it's not about, I guess, catching up the mistake. It's just about learning from that and then trying not to make that in the future. And then, you just keep moving forward. It's just about putting one step in front of the other.
So then one might ask, how then can you win? How can you maintain a winning attitude, which is something I believe in fundamentally, when you know that you've lost that time? How do you reconcile that?
Fix the issues faster than the next guy and try to just keep moving forward. So a lot of the times, if you make a navigation error, a lot of times people will go all the way back to where they were, reset and try it again. And sometimes it works that you can just compensate if you've realized where you've gone wrong. And you say, hey, I should have been left, but I ended up on the right. The correct way is on the left. You can compensate and work your way back over to the correct track without turning around and going all the way back. So you're not digging yourself a hole. You've just kind of got yourself out of the hole you've already put yourself in. And, you're just going to keep moving forward, right? So, for instance, there was one day that, some riders lost over 20 minutes on a navigation error because of this exact same thing. We ended up on the right side of a wash, and then we ended up on the right side of this little mountain. So it kept everyone too far to the right. And we have a compass heading. So they were 20 degrees off of the compass heading and on the wrong side of the wash, but they all ended up going this, and I got there when someone was going back to go back and try it again. And I got there and said, oh, the compass heading is at that mountain. So it can't be this way. That's too far off. So it's got to be this way. And the rivers here, we're supposed to be on this side of the river. So I'm just going to go over there and start going at the cap heading. And I ended up doing it right. So I lost almost no time. And so other guys lost almost 20 minutes in this area.
Yeah.
And in this, scenario, a couple of guys, instead of going all the way back, they just realized, hey, I'm 20 degrees off. I need to be this way. So they started just compensating and ended up figuring it out and going the right way. So this whole thing is mistakes don't matter. It's the reason why I would even go down that road is it's not about the mistake. It's not about you getting lost or having an error or anything like that, because they're going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not, like I said earlier, it's not about if, it's when. They're going to happen. So it's not about that. It's about either fixing them quicker than the next guy or compensating and just trying to remedy it, and if you have to go back or whatever, you just have to realize that it doesn't matter. The time's gone forever now. If you are now super angry and pissed that you've made this mistake and now you're going to ride and you're going to make up that time and you're going to cloud yourself into another one later on.
Yeah. Let me pull that around for anyone listening who doesn't race motorcycles, because I just think what you said is so critical. And that's the beauty of this whole podcast, is exploring super successful people and the psychology that makes them successful. And I want to dig in on this idea that you gave us, identifying it, fixing it faster than the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key elements of that statement is the other guy. And what I mean by that is sometimes when things suck, the industry sucks for me, I have to remember that it sucks for all my competitors too. Right? They have the same notes as you. They have the same terrain as you. They got to make the same judgment calls as you. And inevitably, like you said, it's not if, but when. Not only will you make a mistake, but so will they. And I know that sounds a little morbid, but that is reality. And so whatever mistakes find you, if you can fix them faster than the other guy, just exactly what you said, and keep moving, you have a shot at coming off victor. Think about the guy who was racing against Braybeck, who was 3 minutes behind, probably feeling like, I have no shot.
Right.
But what's he going to do? Ride slower, give up? Just because he kept moving, he won the race.
Yes.
And it's no slight, of course, on Ricky. That is racing. That is competing. And I'm applying that to everything. Sometimes it's so easy for me to get caught up in all the stuff that's going wrong in my business, or like the problems I have. And just, and that makes you want to give up, or that makes you want to find a different path, a different way. But sometimes if you just keep going, it's actually the other guy's mistake that will inevitably happen at some point that will allow you to come off conqueror.
And Ricky's been on the other side of this too. You know, it's just, it's a give and take. That's how it is. And it's such a weird term to say, like, to go up to someone like Ricky that just experienced this and say, that's racing, buddy. It's like, dude, it's heavy.
Oh,
I mean, it's all year. We have one event.
Well, it's your income, it's your livelihood, it's your, it's your future.
Yeah. And it's tough, especially when it's your mistake too. Cause we have strategy of like, hey, it would be better to win this day or to not win this day versus opening the stage the next day, because the navigation will be harder. You don't have any tracks to follow. So we have strategies like this to help kind of put yourself into a good place. And luckily we worked a good strategy to kind of put Ricky in that spot. And he didn't have an easy thing. He had to open up that stage, and he was the first track on the ground. So he had no tracks to follow.
Yeah.
But Luciano came to that exact same note and saw Ricky's track going left on this other road and went, nope, I'm going to go up here.
Wow.
And he got it right.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it just so happened that was at the end of the race.
Right. Exactly. And you know, this is the thing too, is like, to be someone like Luciano, you have to really trust yourself. You'd be like, hey, the guy who's leading the race just went that way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to trust him. I'm going to go this way. This is what my gut feeling is. And that led him to a race win. You know, it's like, that's the other side of it too, is like, you really have to trust your gut, be like, hey man, cause we've got to areas where like 6 guys have gone the wrong way. And you are like, hey, all 6 of these professional racers went down that way. I'm not going to trust them. I'm going to trust my own instinct and go. And that could be and that has, defined the win of the Dakar Rally before. Yeah. Guys went down the wrong canyon and this happened to Matthias Walkner. Literally 6 guys went down the wrong canyon and he went, nope, I'm going to go 200 meters more and go down this next canyon. And he ended up winning the race because of that. Wow. So it's like, rally in general can teach yourself about, like, if you're on the liaison on the transfer sections at 4:00 in the morning, freezing your butt off for 4 hours alone with your thoughts. Cause I don't wear headphones. They hurt my ears. So I'm just wearing earplugs for 4 hours, just the drone of the bike and wind. You learn a lot about yourself when you're alone. Wow. And then you're out there trying to make these decisions in the heat of like anxiety and pressure. And like you say, racing against all these other guys who are at the top of their level. And if you've made that mistake, now you have to try and regulate your emotions. Otherwise you might pressure yourself into, another mistake. And then it's gone backwards for you. So you have to be, okay, that's behind me. I've learned my lesson today. I was overriding the road book. I was we call it getting behind the road book. If you're not on top of it, as far as like following it along perfectly, if you get to a corner and you're like, oh shoot. Okay. Oh, now, all right. You're riding behind the road book, and that's dangerous because there's also dangers in there as well. Mm-hmm. So if you get to that point and you've made this mistake and all right. Okay. I need to chill out. I need to only ride as fast as I can navigate here.
Well, especially when you're already maybe in the psychology that you're behind,
right?
The leader or the stage, whatever, by X minutes, and you're trying to push, and there's danger. Yeah, like if you're not on top of that road book, you could lose your life. Yes, or at least
No, for real though,
be damaged severely. I mean, you've experienced this. You've been broken. Yeah. So there's fear involved, and I just think, like, even though we're talking about motorcycle racing, all of these concepts apply to real life, really. Staying ahead, not letting that psychology break you down, not riding beyond your ability. At the same time, one of the blessings of many things in life that are not racing the Dakar is that it's not a win-lose situation. There, like in my world, there can be multiple successes in my industry. Like if I win, whatever that means, that doesn't mean others have to lose, actually. many of us can win.
Right.
That's another thing I have to remind myself. So it's like, but I still want to borrow from the psychology that you're offering because so many of these lessons are applicable.
Well, it's, I mean, to go down that road, it's helped me a lot in my personal life. So for instance, before I was a factory racer, I had sponsors, and there was an individual named Garrett who really is responsible for getting me started into the rally career. He owns a very successful construction company building high-end doctors' offices. And in order to pay for the Dakar, I would go down and do all the demo work and stuff out of these offices to help pay for our deal. Well, I was also the mechanic for our race team in the States. So we would do Baja racing or Best in the Desert or whatever. So we had some bikes that I was responsible for building for the Sonora Rally and whatever else. And I was behind. I was not going to meet deadlines, and I was super stressed out because he's put a ton of money and effort and trust into me to deliver. I'm staying up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning and then waking up at 5 or 6 in order to try and get this done. I'm not getting it done. Too much stuff's happening, and I'm spazzing out. I'm not going to meet the deadline, and it's super important. And I just, I'm spiraling. And I'm sending him these huge long texts. I'm so sorry. I'm not, trying to make excuses, whatever it might be. And I learned a lot from him too, that also, translated into why I became a good rally racer. He'd always be like, hey dude, do the best you can. That's it. Just do the best you can. And he's like, whatever doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. He's like, or if I was like really spiraling, he's like, hey, let's talk about it tomorrow. He's like, just don't worry about it today. Let's talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if it's still a problem tomorrow, we'll figure it out. But if it's not, then why are you stressing? He actually really helped me out to learn a lot of like self-regulation and how to be like, okay, the mistake didn't matter.
Yeah.
Learning about it does. Okay, how can I better prepare myself to be in a situation like this in the future? How can I not make this error or this judgment again in the future or whatever? Yeah. And how can I chill? And if it's a problem tomorrow, we'll figure it out tomorrow. Or if it really is that big of a problem, we're either going to figure it out or we're not. Mm-hmm. But sitting here and like you bring up the fear, it could be the fear of crashing your dirt bike at 100 miles an hour. It could be the fear of not turning in a paper or not doing a report. I mean, fear is objective, subjective, whatever, like you want to put it in. Fear could be you're afraid to call your grandma. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there's a saying that Kurt Caselli, the late Kurt Caselli, said is do something every day that scares you. And that doesn't mean dangerous. Yeah. Because it all comes back to this. It's like everything you do in life might be scary. Yeah. And so all of that just comes down to is like, how can you regulate that? And how can you keep putting one step in front of the other? I'm scared to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. I'm scared to like in navigation or in life or whatever. But at the end of the day, either you're going to handle it or you're not. Yeah. You have two options in front of you. Yeah. You can either, go into a corner and cry about it and curl into a ball and nothing gets done. And ultimately the situation will probably become worse, or you can figure it out. Yeah.
The thing I love about, what you offer in this explanation and going back to your roots is it's a peek into what it takes to be a champion. You're a champion racer. You've won like 50 races or something. You've won the podium at Dakar. You're one of like 5 Americans, I think, to ever even stand on a stage win in Dakar. Yeah. You stood on the podium in Dakar overall as a privateer, I think. No, you were.
I was factory husky.
You were
at the time.
Factory husky at the time. Mm-hmm. But you've gone through and probably continue to battle the fears. Control your mindset, and all of that, is a product of your coming up the hard way, paying your dues, doing demo work, doing mechanic work, whatever it took to try to support a racing career, which already is like a needle in a haystack, right? For everyone that is successful, there's 1,000 more who are just out there burning through money. Mm-hmm. But for anyone listening, Skyler's a normal dude who has to battle all these same fears, battle all these same shortcomings, be frazzled on the way up. And if you feel that way with whatever it is you're building out there, because I know I feel that way here, you know, what's funny. I reflect all the time. Like the stakes are just higher. That's all it's about. Like the stakes for you now in a race are just higher than they were when you were a privateer. They just are. Both the upside and the downside. Now everyone's going to see when you come up short or when you make a mistake like Ricky made publicly, you know, let's call it that. And, and he's a big boy. He's been on the podium plenty of times, you know, he knows what's at stake. You know what's at stake. But for those watching, sometimes it's easy to look at champions and think, you know, they've got it all. They've got the sponsorship from Monster. They've got the sponsorship from Honda Alpenstars, whatever. They've got Lovesac going with 300 stores across the country. Look, I often feel like Lovesac is just as vulnerable to competition and to, you know, being, you know, coming up short at 700 million as it was at 70, which at the time seemed bonkers for a kid who started this in the basement, as it was at 7, as it was at, you know, 70 sacks a year in the beginning. Right. And so I'm still just in the hunt and I hope I've developed strategies and skills and abilities to deal with the fear, deal with the uncertainty of the landscape of the competition and all that. But the challenge is still there.
You know, what's so interesting too, and I don't know because I'm not a father, but you do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this, like,
Sure.
You think, and I see a lot of it just in the general day-to-day of the world today. You, like, a lot of my generation at least had, you know, whatever you want to call it growing up, whether it be struggles or traumatic experiences or whatever it might be. And you don't want your kids to go through that, but you have to look yourself in the mirror of like, why am I the way I am today? And then maybe it's because I had some, you know, instances where it was really difficult to get through that time.
100%.
It was not easy. And I came out of it on the other side, and I'm a better person for it on the other side because I was able to cope with it and learn from it and then keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I look back at my career as a professional and a privateer. There are many times. There was one specific time that I got burned by a couple people really bad, and I was really depressed. And at the time, I really didn't know what depression actually meant. I just, you know, I was this happy-go-lucky dirt bike rider, and I just thought being depressed was, oh, you're sad. Why quit being sad?
Quit being such a wuss.
Yeah. And I got really depressed. I didn't come out of my room for like 3 months. I didn't unload my bike. I was just like so over it. I was convinced that my dream of being a professional or like a factory dirt bike rider, whatever you like category you want to put it in, making money riding a dirt bike, that was never going to happen.
By the way, there's a lot of people feeling that way right now, even listening to this.
Right. And I was really struggling. And the best way I could describe it is that I was treading water, working my butt off and not actually doing anything. You know, I was not moving forward. I was just keeping my head above water. So, you know, in the aspect of I was able to race, but I had $75 in my bank account, you know, and not making enough money to even go to the race. So it was like I was working 14 hours a day in order to fund it. Then I was getting burned. People were kind of like, it was just a stressful time. And I look back now because, you know, some other people might be kind of going through the same transition of like, hey, they've realized that their goal and dream of being a factory racer and racing for a living might not be happening. And I have an insight now to be like, hey, actually, that's not the end of the world. You know, racing at the end of the day, why'd you start? Or why did you start doing most of this stuff, right? Because you have a passion for it. And especially with dirt bikes are meant to be fun. And you start racing because it's fun, and you get to go out there with your buddies and you have battles and you get this sense of adrenaline and sense of satisfaction for completing something hard or winning or whatever it might be, you know, and then you get to a spot where now all of a sudden, now you have a certain expectation on yourself, something you want back out of it. And maybe that's not going the way you had imagined, and that's difficult to deal with. But at the end of the day, if you can still do it, whether or not you make money at it or not, there's totally different levels to look at it. Now you have the freedom to go do whatever you want. You don't have to answer to anyone else telling you what you can and can't race and what you can and can't say or whatever, where or whatever. Now you can just pay for it by working a normal job and having a successful career. And then, you can have fun racing. Or in my aspect, you can get really fortunate that some people believe in you and they give you a shot and you just keep moving forward. I say it a lot that I didn't make it here because I was the fastest rider. There's a lot of guys that I grew up with that are faster than me. And they're, I would never even beat them in the race, but they decided that sacrificing as much as it takes to make it to this level, they didn't want to do that. They would rather settle down, get a nice career, have a family, and that's it. But they have,
by the way, it's a choice.
And that's a choice. Totally fine. Whatever choice you want to make, that's 100% totally cool. It doesn't mean that you failed at becoming a racer. It just means that that's not the life you wanted.
I have to ask you this because I get asked it all the time. What kept you going? How do you answer that?
Probably 2 or 3 different things. Growing up, people would just write me a check for $100 to pay for my entry fee.
Okay.
And
that kept you going?
Honestly, I remember it too. There's a handful of guys that would go that are like, "Hey man, here's $50 for your entry." And I remember all of them. A guy, when I was, going to church one time, wrote me a check for $100. That dude did not have $100 to give me.
Wow.
And he wrote me a check for $100 just to be like, "Hey, I believe in you. Cool. I want to see you succeed." And that kind of stuff is like, I owe it to them to try and get as far as possible.
That's a cool example because one, it kept you going. It gave you the race fee, but I think you're saying something different, right? Kept you going spiritually, emotionally, kept your head and kept your, I get occasionally, even this podcast, here we are, I don't even know, 80 something episodes in. First of all, blessing to sit down with people like you, learn from you selfishly. But every now and then I'll get, a DM or an email or whatever saying, "Hey, I just want you to know this meant something and I got off drugs," or, I can't believe it from my book or this podcast or whatever. I have no advertisers. I make no money off of this. That's not even my goal. Someone would ask, what is your goal? I do a lot of things without a goal. I do things because I'm compelled to do them and I'll see where they go. And they often lead me to places that I did not expect, but I'm glad I followed my instinct. But along the way, because it's still a grind, it's those things that kept me going, that keep me going, even with side hustles like this podcast. And so that's cool to hear. That's what kept you going.
That's one. The other side of it, there's another way of thinking through that too. And this is the harder way to talk is, do you actually know that you have what it takes? Especially in racing a dirt bike, there's something weird there. There's a light switch in your brain that you have to turn off in order to go fast on a dirt bike.
Oh, for sure. I don't have it. Like I race in Baja because I love dirt biking, but I do not, I mean, I'm friends with Travis Pastrana, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's a big love sacker too. It's really cool. And he obviously has that switch. You can, and so to have that ability to tamp down fear at the level you need to go really fast.
Right.
I don't have it.
Andrew Short, former Supercross racer, he went into rally and he was in a spot where he was like, riding really conservatively. And Pablo Quintanilla, who's a former teammate of mine, he just recently retired. He had said to Andrew, "You value your life too much."
Wow.
So it's an interesting thing to think about. In order to be a really fast desert racer or rally racer, if you come to a rise that you can't see on the other side, but in the road book, there's no danger marked.
Yeah.
A lot of the times we don't ever let off. In the desert out here, if you do that, you're asking for big trouble. Like you can only ride as fast as you can see.
Yeah.
But we put so much trust in the road book that if there's not a danger marked on the road book, then keep the gas on.
I learned that rally race. So I drove 2 years rally car, and it was so fun because with those kind of notes, and those kind of notes, I think are even more detailed probably than what you're dealing with. It's every corner, every turn.
Yeah.
And what happens is you get to drive faster than your eyes would let you.
Right.
Right. Because the note's telling you it's a 5, That's the corner. Like, think of it like you could be in fifth gear,
Right.
but your eyes are seeing it like you want to slow down to 20 miles an hour because you're on this dirt pebble road. There's a river over there.
Yeah.
And you feel like if I don't slow down, I'm going to slide right off this road into that river and be dead.
Yeah.
But your co-driver's saying it's a 5 left. That means you should be doing about 100.
Yep.
And so it's like your right foot's just shaking because your eyes are telling you to slow down, but the notes are telling you to go. That's like the most exhilarating feeling.
Oh yeah.
But I would liken it back to my life in business in the sense that while I don't have that ability dirt biking, even though I love to ride and I ride fast enough, you ride pro fast. In business, in a way, I think I have that in the sense that, I haven't just taken all my stock out of Lovesac and cashed out and I got all these investments over here. I stay very focused because frankly, I'm asking the people that work for me, especially like in my executive team, it's their biggest investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's their career on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so I leave my chips all on the table because I want to feel that same pressure that they do to continue to win.
Right.
As opposed to like, well, if this whole thing gets a little weak, I've got these no. And by the way, I'm not giving investment advice. This is terrible investment advice to anyone listening, but it's a psychology thing.
Yeah.
And it keeps me sharp. And I would even pull it all the way back to what you said about our children. How do we raise kids that have the ability to gain through adversity like we did?
Right.
And that's why I'm very dubious about leaving them tons of money or, I love this phrase, you want good kids, just don't do too much for them. Just don't do too much for your kids. And that sounds like a really brutal thing to say.
It's so hard to do. And I don't have children of my own, but I've tried to mentor kids. And it's a weird thing to put everything. Look, I've learned the hard way. Yeah. I've done it the hard way. This is the way that works. And you'll watch them that just take a hard left and you're like, what are you, people got to touch the pan to see how hot it is. What I mean?
And it can apply to the big things, obviously, like, whatever it is, don't give them too much resource, whatever, but it can also apply to the day-to-day things. Like I take my kids dirt biking on purpose. I love it. My daughters as well, even my, youngest daughters. And, they'll fall over and until they completely are out of gas, I try not to pick that bike. They're going to drop the bike.
Yeah.
They need to learn how to pick it up.
Yep.
They need to learn how to get started on a downhill. They need to, you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's so painful because I have to sometimes watch them literally fall on their face with the chance that something could go awry that their mom would be upset with. But like, look, it's an easy metaphor, but I think day to day, minute to minute, just try not to do too much for your kids.
I saw an interview with some movie star. They said the more famous, the more big you get, the more obstacles are taken out of your way. And honestly, it makes life worse not having friction. If you have a little bit of friction in your life, I think the meaning of life is to have responsibility. It's not about anything else. It's about responsibility, about, okay, what do you have? Do you have a family? Do you have something? Do you have a job that you need to take care of? Do you have a company that you got to run? Do you have, a contract that you've signed that you have obligations to, whatever it might be? Do you have a wife, you have a dog, you have something, responsibility. And then you have responsibility to leave that information behind, right? So then the human race, or, in my aspect, racing, there's not very many Americans that are doing what I do. And there's not really a fine blueprint of how to get to this because it's not an American sport. It's more of a European style, form of racing. But I'm convinced that I love the opportunities that I've been presented by living in this country. And I know that a lot of other people might even be better than me. And I would love to see more success. And so if I can, hey, look, I did it this way and this is what worked for me, and, it might work for you too. And I can, you can learn from me and make the process a little bit quicker. I'm not saying easier, but maybe instead of taking 5 years to do it, it only takes you, or 25 years.
Save you 20,
what I mean?
That's the spirit of this.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing. In fact, I wanted, coming back to fear. So there's obviously the blatant one to talk about in your profession, just being able to tamp down that fear of blasting over a rise. And by the way, I've seen the clips of that going wrong for people. You know, you're talking about 2 broken ankles, or you're talking about, you know, clavicles, or you're talking about spine injuries. So that's one thing that you've proven you can do, is overcome that fear and power through. What about as a career? Because all of a sudden now you are on top. You got the factory sponsorships. You got something to lose. How do you, let me offer this. I've said it on this podcast before. I know that every day, you know, I feel different types of fear in my life as a builder, as a leader, as an executive, as whatever, as a dad even. And I, in my morning mantra, I have a line, I repeat it a lot. When I find that fear creeping in and driving my decisions, I remind myself, as I hopefully did this morning when I read through it, I will not operate from a place of fear. I operate from a place of love and optimism and adventure. And so the fear is still there of whatever it was, but I will flip it to, okay, how can I approach this thing from love, optimism, or adventure? How do you deal with the fear now of losing what you've gained or anything in that realm?
That's a great question, because I've been there. And I mean, I'll get real with it. I ended my contract with Husqvarna when I was pretty convinced that I was ending my racing career when I did it.
Wow.
And it was solely because we couldn't come to an agreement on a new contract. And I felt taken advantage of for what I had accomplished and what I was building within that company. And of course they invest crazy amounts for me. So they have their investment they have to look at, and, you know, future investment into me. And then I have to look at, what am I worth? You know, am I going to go out there and I'm going to continue to live, you know, renting a room at a friend's house and try to risk my life to build the image for myself and a company? Or do I, you know, what do I envision myself out of this? So anyways, long story short, I got to a point where I needed to make a new contract with Husky, and we couldn't come to an agreement. It just was not happening. That with management there and what I envisioned for myself, it just wasn't happening. And I never thought of myself to be stressed out or depressed or anxious or whatever it might be. But during it was like a 3-month process that I didn't stop staring at my phone because I was just waiting for the next email to show up. And I had just broken my shoulder blade. So I was also in pain, not able to go out and like ride or do something, clear my mind or whatever it might be. So I was just stuck on the couch. Taking ibuprofens, stressed out of my mind, and I gave myself stomach ulcers. It took like almost 2 years to get over it. You're kidding me. I was pretty messed up, like just with my stomach and health and stuff. So there was the fear of everything that you've tried to do for, you know, I turned pro when I was 21 or 20. And when I was 28 is when I signed my first contract. So for those 7 years or 8 years or whatever it was, that was my full goal, is to try and make money riding a dirt bike. And a year and a half after I signed my first contract, I was trying to get out of it. And I couldn't really understand, like, there was a lot of other stuff happening with other riders. And I looked at them like, oh man, if they're treating them this way, I'm never going to get myself out of this hole. And I dug myself the hole. I signed a contract that was unfair to me, but I would have signed anything at that point. You know, I was so desperate, but I hung
up on the goal that you had set for yourself. And I think that's worth contemplating for people.
It's super, super important that you don't undervalue yourself. The best time to ask for a raise is before you start. And I've massively undervalued myself before I started because I was just so desperate. And it's important to especially for anyone listening, it's super important to understand, even though you're in a place of that you need something, anything, you cannot undervalue yourself because you're there for a reason. If you even have the contract or the opportunity in front of you, you're there for a reason. You have to negotiate.
This happened to me recently, and I won't get into it, but on a separate situation. But it will often surprise you if you're willing to value yourself properly. what won't go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true.
But that's a tough thing to do when you don't know what's on the other side.
Right. Or if it's your first time being there too. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't have an agent steering me the right way or whatever. I'm a kid that wants to race dirt bikes, you know? So anyways, I get to a spot now where I have the fear that everything that I've just invested, 2 years ago, I just, sold everything I owned and poured it all into trying to do this race that led to a factory contract that now I'm going to try and end. I was scared. I was super scared. I'm like, man, is this it? Am I going to be done racing dirt bikes now? Mm-hmm. And, it tore me up for a while. And after we finally came to an agreement to terminate my contract, I picked up the phone and I called Honda, and I got super fortunate that I just came off the podium and a win at Morocco, and I'd almost gone undefeated that whole previous year. So I was on a very big, upswing of my results. And so I had a contract within 2 weeks. But even after I signed that and I was, all right, now I'm where I want to be. I'm with the Monster Energy Honda team. This is what I envisioned for myself before I even started this career. This is where I've always wanted to be, right? I still didn't have this feeling of like, all right, now I'm here. I was still just kind of like stuck in this weird funk of like, it was really weird. Also, my body was all messed up and stuff. And like you say, learning from whatever you had to go, I learned that it doesn't matter how good you are or what type of relationship you have with people or within your company, if you're working for a job, how much like sacrifice you make at any moment, it can all end. And they could have the same like loyalty that you have for them, but as far as a company goes, they just simply cannot help you out or continue or whatever. And then you're just left.
It's not even up to you.
It's not even up to you. It really isn't even up to you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, now what? I just devoted so much now. So that really difficult process helped me understand that no matter what I do, no matter what I accomplish within the team, no matter what happens, at any point in time, the economy can tank. The company can decide they don't want the rally program anymore. Yeah. Whatever happens.
A new executive can come in with a different point of view.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they're like, hey, sorry, I appreciate everything you've done. Shake hands. See you later.
So you've embraced that.
I've embraced that, knowing that at any point in time that I'm not going to be able to race till I'm 50.
Yeah. No, it's how I end my mantra, actually. None of us make it out alive anyway. So go for it.
Or enjoy it. Just enjoy it. So that's where I'm at now. When the helmet goes on, I want to win. That's because of me. I want to win. I want that for my goal. I'm competitive. I feel accomplished when I win a race, whatever it might be. I want to win. And that's not to say that I am not trying, I'm not giving it my 100%, but also I would do myself and everyone else who is following along or a fan because they just like to see what I have to say or whatever it might be. I would do them a massive disservice if I didn't take it in.
Yeah.
If I didn't enjoy it. My first Dakar in Peru, I was so overwhelmed with thinking that this was my only one. If I don't perform at this race, I'm never going to do it again. And I didn't hate it, but I was like, it was the worst experience. I rode so tight. I didn't enjoy it. I was like super angry all the time because I wasn't living up to what I expected out of myself. And so now I have this understanding of like, hey, I'm racing through one of the craziest places on earth.
Yeah.
If I didn't look around, at least, you know what I mean?
I love it.
So I understand now that no matter how much loyalty or effort I put in, I could be gone tomorrow.
Well, and everyone who does anything competitive or even interesting knows that feeling that you just do it better when you're having fun.
Totally.
And I try to remind my kids of this, but I also try to remind myself of this. And it includes what I do. It's no different. Like, I am so much more creative. I'm so much, I don't know, more of a dynamic leader if I'm trying to embrace it and enjoy it, even when it sucks.
Yeah.
Even when you've already made the mistakes maybe in the race.
Yeah.
And isn't it wild? I come back to that same finish we were talking about that had that guy who was already minutes behind with the last stage and only a few minutes left in the stage. If he had, you know what I mean?
If he just kind of gave up and wrote it in and it already accepted defeat.
Or did the easy thing and followed the track.
Right.
He wouldn't have won the Dakar.
Yeah.
And any of us get the chance to win the Dakar. Because it's, by the way, not even dependent on what you do only, it's dependent on what the other guy does. And I think that's such an interesting thing for us not to forget about. I have to remind myself of that. It's not just about how awesome I am, actually. It's about counting on the fact that the same friction and the same bullcrap and the same difficulties that I'm experiencing, whatever those are, and there's plenty. The others are too. I just don't see it. Here's the worst part. All I see are their Instagram posts.
Of course. Yeah.
And everything looks good on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right? But they're going through the same crap. So what I got to do is keep riding my race. And I find it fascinating that your thing, unlike my thing, actually is life or death. Like you have come to terms with the fact that your thing involves you being actually willing to risk your life or at least livelihood and health. And you do that. You're okay with that. You have to be.
It's a bit of a morbid way to think. Like I bring back to what Pablo said, you value your life too much.
Yeah.
Which is strange because I value my life and I very much enjoy it and I enjoy the people that I'm with and I want to continue to live it.
That's true. Okay.
But if you have the fear of what might happen and you roll off the gas, you're just not going to win.
Well, and this is why I want to call it out, because most people listening, they might face embarrassment. They might face catastrophic financial loss. And if you really ask the question, well, what's the worst outcome? It's like ending up in your parents' basement again for a minute or something like that.
Yeah, but
and at the end of the day, how bad actually is that?
Yeah. So what?
That's what I mean. And so it's not being paralyzed from the waist down or something. And I don't mean to be more, but I'm just saying that like,
well, but that's 100% a possibility.
It's a harsh perspective. And I think it's worth thinking about because, and that's why I love having you on this podcast, because most people don't have that as part of the downside equation. And so get over it. Go for it. That's what I'm saying, right? None of us make it out alive. So go for it.
Yeah. Alex Honnold says something like that, like people need to face danger in their life. And he gets taken out of context when he said that. And I see a lot of the responses to that, like, his idea of danger obviously is to free solo El Cap, which is, very dangerous. Yeah. But he says like, people are panicking over the thought of missing their flight. Well, what actually happens? What actually is going to happen if you fail at your idea or if you make a mistake? This is another morbid way of thinking, but I actually had a former boss. I was a lifeguard for like 9 years and worked my way up to the pool supervisor. And my boss, the pool director, he told me one thing that I'll take for my whole life is I had all these ideas of how I can make the pool run better. And he goes, I'll give you enough rope to hang yourself with. And I was like, yeah, right. He's like, you can do whatever you think is the right call. But if it doesn't go the way you think, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to figure out how to either fix it or whatever it might be. He's like, but take the risk, take the jump, take the leap, do what you got, do whatever you got to do, but accept the consequences.
Well, that length of rope that can hang you is the only length of rope that can actually let you win the race as well. Yeah. And so, tug on the rope. I want to take you back for a second, if I can, to that place where you sold everything. Cause I think not everyone has to come to that, but I think everyone does have these moments where they got to make these decisions to go all in or something like that. And I think, essentially tell us, set that up for us. You had to essentially sell everything to fund your career ongoing, that now here you are, a factory rider. And even that will come to an end someday, no matter what, based on age and whatever. So tell me about that. Tell us about that.
So I got fortunate enough that I could do 2 Dakars before I reached this point, right? So I already knew what I was capable of because the Dakar before I had finished 9th place on a completely 100% stock bike.
Out of how many riders?
150.
Wow.
And I was the top privateer. So I was the top finisher that wasn't on a factory bike. And I won the Rally 2, the amateur category. But I broke the bike in half.
Oh my gosh.
That generation of bike had a really big problem of breaking the swing arm pivot bolt. And when that happened, the bike would start crab walking.
Yeah,
and it broke all the engine hangers out. And I actually broke the frame, the chassis of the bike in half.
God.
So with all of those mechanical issues, I still finished 9th. And I calculated how much time I really lost throughout the days. And I was like, man, if I didn't do this, I would have been inside the top 5. So I know I'm capable of a top 5 and I know I'm capable of doing better. And so then I reached a point at that same race, Garrett, the guy who was my sponsor and making it possible to go, he crashed at the Dakar, broke his back, broke both of his legs, both of his arms, like huge deal. And he's like, all right, I got 7 kids at home and a company that I got to run. He's like, this is, it's too much. Right. So he's like, all right, that's it. Race program is stopped. You're kind of on your own.
Oh no.
Which, is how it goes. Right. So I was faced with the decision of, all right, if I go back, I have to figure out funding on my own. And I got a call from the support team that's basically a fly and ride. So if you wanted to go race the Dakar, you could pay them and they'll supply everything. You show up with your gear bag. They're like, hey, we need a professional level rider on the team. It helps us market our team better, XYZ. We can't give it to you for free, but we can guarantee that you're going to have better equipment than you did in the past, and we'll, put you on the path to success. And I said, great. I can't afford it.
Okay.
I can't afford it.
You couldn't afford that.
I can't afford nothing.
Wow.
It's $100,000.
Oh,
their
geez.
base price was $66,000 just for the Dakar, and that didn't include your flights and broken parts and everything else.
Wow.
At the end of the day, when you think about everything, it costs about $100,000. I'm like, there's no way.
So you couldn't even afford the sponsorship.
No,
as it were.
I can't afford nothing. And I told them that. I said, hey, look, I'm gonna need your help. They're based out of Holland. And I'm like, I need you to go to your sponsors and see if you can figure out how to get me a bike rental for free, cover the tires, cover the oil, we got to cut this down. I can maybe afford like $25,000 out of 100.
And that was you borrowing and stealing to do it.
So they were like, all right, they came back to me and they said, hey, look, we got our own personal team sponsors that are going to put in extra for you, but you're going to have to, deck out your clothes and, really be a good ambassador for those companies. But you're still about $60,000 you got to come up with on your own. So I was like, all right, well, I would kick myself for the rest of my life if I didn't at least try. I know what I'm capable of. I know I'm capable of a top 5. And if you're capable of a top 5, you're capable of a podium.
Yeah.
If you're capable of a podium, you're capable of a win.
Yeah.
You're capable. If you can be in the top 5, you could win if it all goes right. And so I'm like,
if another guy makes a mistake,
whatever. And I said, all right, it's all just stuff, right? It's all just stuff. I could get more stuff. Let's go. So Garrett gifted me my old rally bike from my first Dakar. I'm like, that's got to sell it. So I sold it for top dollar, more than what it should have been bought for. But I had really, awesome people who believed in me also. Like, hey, we get something at least a little bit and, out of it. So sold my rally bike. I had 3 Gen 1 450Xs that I found in barns, for $1,500 and stripped down and built into my race bikes. Those all got sold. I sold my Toyota pickup truck. Oh man, I'm still bummed about that. That thing was sweet. I was living in this guy, Joe. He had a vacation house, and the deal was if I took care of the property, I could stay in the casita for free. So I was sleeping in his house for free on his bed. So I couldn't sell the bed. It wasn't mine. Probably would have. But I was really fortunate in that aspect too, that I didn't have to pay rent at the time. So when I say like sell everything I owned, I already had a really good spot, right? I had no debt and I wasn't paying rent, and all I was doing was just trying to make the racing happen.
Wow.
So I sold all my other stuff, and the only thing I didn't sell was my mountain bike. And I was riding Joe's dual sport bike to work because I sold my truck. And he didn't know that I was doing that, but he wasn't there. So I was just like, I got to get to work somehow.
Begging, borrowing, and whatever.
Whatever.
Right.
So anyways, I still got to the point where I was like 40 grand short. I was like, hey, I'm not going to make it. And I told Bart, the owner of the team in Holland, I said, I'm going to have to move to Holland. I'm going to have to work at your shop to work this off. Like, I can't pay you. And he kept hitting me up. He's like, hey, I need final payment. I'm like, I don't have it. You have every single cent that I have. Like, I can't do it.
Oh my gosh.
And I got an email from a Swiss watch company called Rebellion. And they were like, hey, we saw what you did last year. We'd love to sponsor you. And I thought it was fake because he said, what do you need? He wasn't like, oh, hey, what's your sponsorship levels? He goes, what do you need to race? And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to race unless I get this paid for. And he goes, what do you need? And I told him, he goes, okay, done.
Wow.
And I'm like, what do you want in return? He goes, whatever, nothing. I'm like, I can get my helmet painted. He goes, sure, that's fine. He's like, we just want to support you and make sure you have. If it wasn't for Alex and Rebellion and, Lemo, I legitimately probably wouldn't have been able, even though I already sold everything I had, if it wasn't for his support, I still probably wouldn't have made it.
Wow.
So, I talk about all the sacrifice and selling, but still, even with that, I got so fortunate that I could live in Joe's house for free, that I got Alex to sponsor me in that I got Bart to go to all of his personal sponsors to cover a lot of stuff. And people, finding sponsors in America were really, really difficult because people don't know what the Dakar is. They don't know that it's worldwide coverage with, you get more views than the World Cup or the Super Bowl or whatever it might be. Like it's the biggest off-road sporting event in the world. It's, it's huge.
Yeah.
But in America, people don't really know.
It's like cricket and soccer and all the other biggest sports in the world
exactly.
that Americans don't know about.
So getting US sponsorship was really difficult. I was like, hey, $1,000, I'll get your logo on the bike, which other people in Europe are charging like 15 grand for that spot.
Yeah.
And people were like, yeah, I'll give you $100. And then I started realizing, I was like, man, people are giving me their hard-earned money. How do I give back to them? So I, put about a section of this big on the bike where I just put their first and last name. Anyone who gives me more than $100, I'll put your name on the bike.
Cool.
And it got highlighted on TV too. So people actually got to see their name on my bike.
That's cool.
So those people that only could give me $100, $300, $1,000, whatever it might be. And then all the other people that came together were the reason I was able to make that happen. And then I got a 5th place. I led the Dakar Rally for a day as a privateer. And then that led me to my ride with Husky. And then I made it, right?
Yeah.
And I made it to the spot that I did. But all of that sacrifice and everything was also because I knew I could do it. So that's the hard conversation too, that some people that have a goal or a dream or whatever it might be is like, well, I might, there's also other people that's like, I have a dream to play in the NBA. I really am not good at basketball.
I think it's also cool that this distinction, you knew you could do it, but you couldn't know that you would win.
Right. Exactly.
And I think
ooh, yeah,
that's a big deal, right? Because none of us know that we're going to win, even when we win. But as long as you truly believe that you can do it, right, that can carry you. Yeah.
Well, I want to expand on that because in the Dakar, you have the longest race that you've ever done every day for 2 weeks, right? So the longest time you've ever been on a dirt bike in one sitting.
But then go do it 14 times.
Do it 14 times in a row.
Yeah, which by the way, every time I ride my leg in the Baja 1000, my claim to fame every year, I'm like, oh, I'm good if I don't ride another leg. I'm done.
So, but think about how many moments you have in that time where you clip a rock.
Oh yeah.
Or with this whole scenario that went down last year with your team and all that stuff.
Yeah, we've broken pelvises, lost fingers, and that's us going, happy speed.
Yeah. But think about how many moments I just call them butt pucker moments.
Mm-hmm.
You hit it and you go, oh man, it's close. Okay, back on the gas. Let's go. How many times does that happen during your leg?
Sure.
Just one leg.
Yeah. I mean, a dozen times.
Yeah. So easy. That over the course of 12 hours a day, every day for 14 days, think about how many moments that can go wrong.
Yeah.
I'd say it a lot. Yeah. The Dakar has to do with a lot of luck.
Yeah.
You just have to be lucky that you went 1 inch to the right versus 1 inch to the left.
So does life. And that's, again, what freezes a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And so you just got to have faith in the luck.
It just is what it is.
You got to have some faith that you can get lucky.
Yeah.
And you got to know that you can do it. Yeah. But you can't know if you're going to win.
Right. But because that's the point, is like you could go out there day 1, kilometer 1, crash out.
Yeah.
$100,000 down the drain, your dream's crushed.
$100,000 of yours and
other people's.
Hundreds of thousands for those that might be supporting you.
Yeah. So it's a lot of trust, a lot of faith, and a lot of just not succumbing to the fear of what might happen. You can't go down that rabbit hole in your brain of like, this could happen, so I just don't even want to try.
So when that creeps in, for me, it's my mantra that keeps me straight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've drilled it in my head even this morning. I will not operate from a place of fear, because it happens. Mm-hmm. I start operating from a place of fear. I kind of flag that and I flip it. Do you have any strategies or is it that just come naturally to you? Or, when you find yourself going to that place, how do you overcome that?
I don't necessarily have a mantra, or at least one that's appropriate to say out loud.
No problem. But I'm just, how do you not operate from a place of fear? I just think it can dominate our thinking. Because
what else are you going to do? Like, I go back to that thing of you got 2 options. I could always, you could get personal with it with family members, going through difficult times and what they want to do and how they want to operate and stuff. And it's like, okay, but what's the outcome? If you want to stop doing this right now, or if you want to complain, or you want to cry about things, or you want to, whatever it might be, what options do you have in front of you, right? You have the option of doing nothing or crying about it, or getting angry or whatever, which is going to make you go backwards. Or you can just figure it out.
Yeah.
Just do what you think is right.
Yeah. In my own, book, it was my mom when I was, faced with the biggest pile of mistakes that I had made, which led to complete bankruptcy, start over of Lovesac, total humiliation. People had been hurt. Lawsuits are happening. I'm embarrassed, humiliated, downtrodden. I should just leave. And, she's not a business person. They can't really help me or advise me through this technically, but I'm asking them, what should I do? Because the easiest thing, and it even felt like the appropriate thing at the time, was for me to just walk away, like get out of this. Like people have been damaged. My whole future's on the line. I've lost money. I've lost others' money. And it upset her a little bit, but she got up from the table and offered me the best advice. You can quit or keep going. And I know that sounds so dumb, but it echoes in my mind almost every day. Mm-hmm. Whether it's as silly as finishing a tough trail on a dirt bike, or with my kids, or alone, or real problems. You can quit or keep going. And so if you're not going to quit, then shut up already and get going.
Mistakes don't matter. Learning does.
That's right. And it just takes mental fortitude.
It takes a lot, because the pressure of the Dakar rally would make, it's like you said in the beginning, it would make a lot of people buckle, just because they haven't been in the situations that I have and learned what they are capable of mentally or physically, and so that's what the important of friction is putting yourself into that position of knowing, hey, I am capable of getting through this, whether it doesn't matter about the speed that you do it or whatever it might be, is like, hey, what are my options here? Right. I can figure this out. That's my options, because otherwise what's the alternative?
That's right. And that's kind of the cool thing about this podcast that I've learned is I can talk to a top motorcycle racer in the world. I can talk to a CEO, a creative, a musician, and we all learn the same lessons.
Yeah, totally.
We just assign different words to them, or it's a different discipline. And so I'm really grateful to you for sharing some of your feelings and tips and secrets and experiences. And I would challenge anybody out there listening that, thinks that the thing that they're doing, they're all in, because until you've sold everything you own and are sleeping on a friend's bed, riding a friend's motorcycle, I don't know that you have.
There's a way to look at that is like, do you want it or do you kind of want it? Do you just want to be able to post on Instagram that you have this, or do you actually really want that? And I don't really go so hard into it. You think about like the Kobe mentality or these other mentalities of like, there's no other option. I'm going to work harder than you no matter what. Grind.
Yeah.
Nothing else in life matters other than this. I'm not about that. I'm about, I like to ride my jet ski. I also like to go drive my Volkswagen with my lady and my dog. Yeah. And I like to enjoy working on dirt bikes in the garage. And whatever it might be, ride my mountain bike and fly hot air balloons and whatever it might be. I believe that there is enjoyment to be had in everything. And there's also enjoyment to be had in whatever your goal might be. So if your goal is to grind and become the best at whatever you're going to be at, then yeah, but you also have to understand that life is still happening around you too. And it's important to know that, a lot of people have very addictive mentalities, whether, if they're going to be a mountain bike racer, that's all they are. There's nothing else matters other than that. It's like, well, actually you can do other things.
Yeah.
It's important to be well-rounded and all that. So it's hard it's not easy, no matter what you're trying to do. It's not easy. That's just what it is. If you want to be a professional athlete, if you want to run a business, whatever you're doing, nothing is easy. Yeah. There is no easy way, and if there is an easy way, chances are friction teaches you lessons. It teaches you how to be a functioning member of society.
Chances are the hard way will find you.
Yes, exactly.
Well, look, you can follow Skyler as I do at Skyler Howes. Skyler with an E and Howes with an E, Howes 110, at Skyler Howes 110 on Instagram and Twitter. Where else can we expect to see you in 2026? What's coming?
Well, I got a handful of these cool project bikes I'm doing. So I have an XR650 that I built, and the next project's a CR500.
Yeah,
so
500.
My plan now, hopefully, is to do a little bit more YouTube stuff to highlight these builds and the products, and then do like head-to-head competitions of nice. These like kind of iconic, classic bikes.
We got to get you out on my 500 snow bike.
I'll do it.
I got a little trailer.
I've never ridden a snow bike.
Okay, we're putting you on one. Well, if we can get some snow.
Yeah, I know.
I guess no guarantees, but before this season's over.
So Instagram's number one. That's where most of my stuff happens. And then I hope to do more YouTube stuff, but it's all time. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's work. Even that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much to the dune riding Duke of the Dakar Rally, the all-around adventure lover, racer who rallies in all aspects of his life, Mr. Skyler Howes.
Thank you.
All right. And remember this, you don't lose time by making mistakes. You lose time by refusing to learn from them. It just might save you a chunk off your own 25-year journey.
Once a year to take my friends away should not be the budget for your bike across America.
TikTok has become an aggregator for some of the dumbest human actions.
When I won that million, I was $2 million in debt, barely hanging on.